Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Ryan in Singapore. Welcome to our mindfulness practice. Today's topic is about the 9 attitudes of mindfulness-based stress reduction. We've walked through, I think about 5 of those attitudes, and now we're on the 6th attitude, which is acceptance. Acceptance is a really foundational one, I think. I think acceptance is one of those that we need to have. A lot of these attitudes are interrelated. Acceptance is one that kind of, needs to be a foundational attitude. Kind of similar to non-judging in the fact that you really need non-judging and acceptance sometimes before the other attitudes because of just how critical this one is to begin our practice, to begin our work, to begin the healing that we can do through our mindfulness practice. And I think something to highlight about acceptance is that acceptance is not a passive attitude, which I think we may kind of get this idea that we hear about acceptance, that it's just kind of like, well, this is just how it is. This is just what's gotta happen. Like this is, so this kind of negative attitude about acceptance, and that's really not what acceptance is. It is not passive resignation. We don't just lie down to whatever the circumstances are, but if we do not accept that things as they are, then what we are doing is trying to force things to be as they are not. So forcing this particular attitude or idea in a situation when that isn't the case, and there tends to be some delusion that goes along with that as well. I'm going to, as I've been doing this time, going through the 9 attitudes, read through Jon Kabat-Zinn's Full Catastrophe Living. So Jon Kabat-Zinn on acceptance. Here's what it's written in Full Catastrophe Living. Acceptance means seeing things as they actually are in the present. If you have a headache, accept that you have a headache. If you are overweight, why not accept it as a description of your body at this time? Sooner or later, we have to come to terms with things as they are and accept them, whether it is a diagnosis of cancer or learning of someone's death. Often acceptance is reached only after we have gone through very emotion-filled periods of denial and then anger. These stages are a natural progression in the process of coming to terms with what is. They are all part of the healing process. In fact, my working definition of healing is coming to terms with things as they are. However, putting aside for the moment the major calamities that usually take a great deal of time to heal from, in the course of our daily lives, we often waste a lot of energy denying and resisting what already is fact. When we do that, we are basically trying to force situations to be the way we would like them to be, which only makes for more tension. This actually prevents positive change from occurring. We may be so busy denying and forcing and struggling that we have little energy left for healing and growing. And what little we may have may be dissipated by our lack of awareness and intentionality. If you are overweight and feel bad about your body, it is no good to wait until you are the weight you think you should be before you start liking your body and yourself. At a certain point, At a certain point, if you don't want to remain stuck in a frustrating, vicious cycle, you might realize that it is all right to love yourself at the weight you are now, because this is the only time that you can love yourself. Remember, now is the only time you have for anything. You have to accept yourself as you are before you can really change. And I'll pause to say, if you aren't, if you don't know where you are, how are you possibly going to figure out where you're going? Right? Do you use Google Maps to get around, or some map program, right? You always need to put in your location for you to get directions to where you're going. So, if you can't accept yourself the way that you are and look at how you are in this moment, how are you going to be able to plot that course towards where you want to be? You have to accept yourself as you are before you can really change. Your choosing to do so becomes an act of self-compassion and intelligence. When you start thinking this way, losing weight becomes less important. It also becomes a lot easier. By intentionally cultivating acceptance, you are creating the preconditions for healing. Acceptance does not mean that you have to like everything, or that you have to take a passive attitude towards everything and abandon your principles and values. It does not mean that you are satisfied with things as they are, or that you are resigned to tolerating things as they have to be. It does not mean that you should stop trying to break free from your self-destructive habits, or to give up on your desire to change and grow, or that you should tolerate injustice, for instance, or avoid getting involved in changing the world around you because it is the way it is and therefore hopeless. It has nothing to do with passive resignation. Acceptance, as we are speaking of it, simply means that sooner or later you have to come around to a willingness to see things as they are. This attitude sets the stage for acting appropriately in your life, no matter what is happening. You are much more likely to know what to do and have the inner conviction to act when you have a clear picture of what is actually happening versus when your vision is clouded by your mind's self-serving judgments and desires or its fears and prejudices. In the meditation practice, we cultivate acceptance by taking each moment as it comes and being with it fully as it is. We try not to impose our ideas about what we should be feeling or thinking or seeing in our experience. Instead, we just remind ourselves to be receptive and open to whatever we are feeling, thinking, or seeing, and to accept it because it is here right now. If we keep our attention focused on the present, we can be sure of one thing, namely, that whatever we are attending to in this moment will change, giving us the opportunity to practice accepting whatever it is that will emerge in the next moment. Clearly, there is wisdom in cultivating acceptance. Okay. A lot of great stuff in there. Really, I think one other thing just to add that wasn't mentioned there was about pain and about chronic pain. Mindfulness-based stress reduction was originally created as a way to deal with chronic pain. And I think the mechanism of action for mindfulness-based stress reduction to be effective in pain is first and foremost accepting that it's there and not trying to push it away. And I think that with this kind of great chronic pain that may be experienced, that there is often denial and anger that comes along with it. And to understand with acceptance, to accept that denial and to accept that anger, that these are part of the process of healing, and no matter what it is that you're experiencing, that this denial, that we want often to rush through things and for things to be different from how they are. And that, this goes for grieving as well. We want this to be over. We want this painful moment to be over so that we can get into the next moment. And it's just important to stress that this moment is here and it is the way that it is, and to trust that things are changing moment to moment. And as we know that things are changing from moment to moment, eventually the grief, the difficulty, the pain, whether it be physical or emotional, it's going to change. And like we said last, a few sessions ago, sometimes that pain grows more, right? It changes and becomes more intense. And just to recognize that we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And is it possible to sit with and be with it, whatever it is? and in this moment, and have that recognition and that acceptance that this is how things are right now. And what has made MBSR so effective at pain management? Why is MBSR so effective at pain management? And one of the major, and I've said it before, the major solutions that MBSR offers is a change in relationship to our current condition. And acceptance is a very, very big part of that. And as we do accept, and we maybe change our mind to using beginner's mind, have this curiosity, what is it? Instead of defaulting to that attitude of, oh, this is pain, this is terrible, this sucks. Is it possible to instead, with an open mind, with a curious beginner's mind, say, what is it that I'm experiencing? And to really look at it with fresh eyes, and to go, and then to accept that this is, okay, now I see clearly what's here. Now let me accept this. This is a fact. This is what's here now. Thanks, Angela, for sharing. I'll get into the chat here after we do our meditation. So let's go ahead and get started in our meditation. So I encourage you to move your back away from the backrest, sit up straight. I'm just going to roll my shoulders a few times, move my head around to help potentially have a little bit more relaxation in my neck and shoulders. I mean, frankly, it just feels good to do that before I start meditating. If you like, allowing your eyes to close, feeling into the face, noticing is there any tension in the forehead and the eyebrows, seeing if you can intentionally let go, relax. Is there any tension in the jaw? Perhaps intentionally parting the teeth from one another. So with the lips closed, letting the lower jaw kind of hang down, parting your teeth a few millimeters so that they're not touching. Arriving in our meditation posture in stillness. And noticing the breath. Turning all of our attention towards this physical sensation. The expansion on the inhalation as the body fills with air. The release, the letting go, the shrinkage of the body as we exhale. And so I'd like to invite you to continue keeping your attention there on the breath. And I'd like to remind you that you need not be any different from how you are in this moment. So sometimes we come to our meditation practice because we want to be different. And so this is okay to have an intention, to have a reason to practice. After all, we all sit here for some reason. But once we're here, once we've arrived, once we're sitting, once we're focusing on breath, Is it possible to accept things as they are? After all, this is a practice of non-striving. We achieve our goals through acceptance, letting go, not trying to get anywhere at all. Curiously looking at ourselves, at this sensation of breath with beginner's mind. Accepting the person who is here now. Accepting this body, this mind, all of the emotions that this person is feeling, this self, this version of me that is here today. Opening our arms to embrace ourselves. Welcoming ourselves to this moment, the only moment we truly have. The moment of right now. This moment. And using our breath as the anchor to this moment. And is the mind a wandering mind? Do you find that it's challenging to stay focused on your breath? Do you find yourself at all getting angry at yourself? Oh, it should be so easy to focus on my breath. Why can't I stay focused? What's wrong with me? Seeing if you can be more accepting of your wandering mind. Knowing that you are already trying to stay focused. You're doing the best that you can. This is the mind. This is in the nature of our minds to wander. So not to get frustrated, not to beat ourselves up, to instead curiously look at how the mind works. That's interesting. It's natural for us to think about what we need to do later, or what we've just come from, or thoughts about ourselves. Through this acceptance that these thoughts are already here, our opening to them, our welcoming them, they self-liberate. They can disappear in this moment as we refocus our attention back to this body, back to this breath, and focusing on this breath and this breath and this breath. Never wondering about the next breath, seeing if we can always be focused, be present with this breath, always examining who it is that's here, the physical sensations that are here, and this flow as they change, as the state of mind changes, as the state of the emotions change, moment by moment, even if it may be very subtle. And now we'll begin to draw our practice to its close. Close practice with 3 rings of the bell. So when you hear the sound of the bell subside, feel free to start making some movements, stretching out your body in whatever way you like. Thanks, everybody, for being here, for practicing with me, for taking this time for yourself, and hopefully cultivating some acceptance for you as you are in this moment, and the things around you, the way they are. And I think that's That's another, it's another one. Trying to force things around you to be the way they are is probably even harder than forcing yourself to be a certain way, or it certainly could be. I guess it depends on your situation. Just kind of like, oh, I wish I were born. I've heard people say this. Oh, I wish I was born in the 70s. Man, if I'd been born in the 70s, things would be much better, or grew up in that and in this time or that time, or wow, maybe I'm, whatever. A lot of this, except not being able to accept the way that things are, the political situation, the wars that are happening. I think that's a really great way to cause yourself to suffer, and probably to spend a lot of time thinking about things that aren't very useful. And that said, we don't need to lie down and passively resign. There are things that we can do to have an effect on the world around us. But I think it's really important to be realistic and accept things the way they are at first, and then see what is it that what impact can I have. Thanks, Rachel, for sharing. Managed to stay focused most of the time. I'm going to go back to your question. Is mindfulness for me, and what ways might I see it manifesting in my life? I have the most unsatisfying answer for this, which is like that. The answer to that question, of course, is different for every single person. I can tell you, for me, one of the things that how I saw it, is it for me? Let's start with that question. Is it for me? I believe everybody can benefit some from mindfulness. It doesn't mean you need to meditate an hour every day to see the benefits, but to intentionally bring attention to the present moment and to accept what's happening in the present moment is extremely powerful, and I think that everybody has some benefit for it. What ways might I see it manifesting in my life? The thing that more than likely that most people will see in their meditation practice is just a greater awareness of things in the present. That you start to be that. And I don't like saying you. I'll just talk to my experience, right? I became more aware of what I was doing. I wasn't just kind of blindly living my life as much, right? Still blindly living my life sometimes, but having a lot more kind of a feeling of waking up. I'm waking up to my life, to the way that it is, and to me, and to what I'm doing, and starting to be able to make better choices. That was when people say, hey Ryan, what's the main thing that you got from your mindfulness practice? Was I just found that there's a greater space between stimulus and response, right? Something happens, and instead of automatically reacting to it instantly, I have a moment where I can see, here's what I want to do, here's what I think, here's what I see myself doing in 2 seconds from now, and then kind of going, well, is this the wisest thing that I can do, or is there something else? So that's really the main benefit that I saw from my practice. Thanks for asking. Angela had said, dealing with chronic pain and the ensuing depression was what got me on here in this app years ago, and that's hard, right? Like what do you do in these situations? Chronic pain often can lead to depression, and these two things are certainly challenging, but this is why it's as hard as it can be, as part of this process, as we go, this is it, this is here, this is my body, this is my mind, these are my emotions. Can I accept this? This is really ground level, step one before we can begin the process of healing. And I'll just go ahead and read what's Jon Kabat-Zinn's working definition for healing: coming to terms with things as they are. Thanks, Angela. Rachel says, I'm dealing with rising global anti-Semitism, even here in my small town of Brisbane. It's been very worrying. Is there a way I can apply acceptance to this? Acceptance doesn't mean that we stop being vigilant. I think that's an important part, right? Take care of yourself. And be careful about dangerous situations, for certain. But when it comes to this, can we change this in the world? Yes, we can change this, but it's each one of us has only so much power, right? If we work together, we have some impact. Okay, this is a fact. What is also a fact is that this is here and this is happening. And the one thing that we can change most easily is our own attitudes. So, and again, let me reiterate that this is not passive resignation, but to deny that this is happening is dangerous, especially if you come from Israel. This is it's something to be aware of, and this is how acceptance. I guess I'm stuttering and struggling a bit because it's not a very satisfying answer, but the world ebbs and flows, and things change, and because of what's on the news, people have particular attitudes, and racism is real. Racism exists, no matter amongst many different races. So, I feel sad that this is how it is. And I'll just say someone asked me recently, a Muslim friend. I'm here in Singapore. We have quite a lot of Malay and Indonesian people here, and someone who was very vocally pro-Palestine said, asked me, right? Because I kind of get a bit scared when people are very super pro anything, and I was kind of asking, well, why do you feel that way? And this person asked me, what's going on with you? Are you pro-Israel? And I paused for a moment, and I just said, I'm pro-humanity. I'm pro-humanity. I want this conflict to be resolved, and I want human beings to stop suffering. And I think this is maybe one way that we can help, is by reminding everybody that we're all humans, we all suffer, we're all on the same side. That's why I close every one of these practices with well wishes, is to remind each other that this is what we can do. It's small, but it's a reminder that each time, if we can look even at that stranger and go, hey, I wish she's happy. This makes a difference, this change in attitude. And you don't know how far those ripples of kindness that you give out can go. I hope that's a acceptable answer, Rachel. Thanks. Jean says, I see MBSR manifesting in my life as I notice with curiosity what's going on inside of me and accepting it exactly as it is. Thanks, Jean. And I know how hard that can be. I don't know. I'm not you. I don't know what's going on inside of you, but I know me, and I know that there are some times that some really challenging things are showing up, and it's hard for me to accept that version of me. So I wish you all the best as you continue accepting yourself as you are moment by moment. Thanks, Tina, for being here. Thanks, Dirk, for being here. Sybil says, being aware and having time to make better choices has made a huge difference for me. Thanks, Sybil. Okay. Wow. It feels, I don't know, it feels a little bit heavier today than usual. That's a good one. Thanks for joining me today, everybody. I'll be back in around 48 hours. We're going to go through MBSR Attitude 7, which is letting go. So look forward to having you join again if you like. If you can't make it to the lives, the recordings are out there on YouTube, so you can check them out. Although I've been relatively slow at getting them up there. So I'll be getting them closer to the broadcast dates coming soon. So look forward to that. Where's Frank? Frankie is what happened is that just tell you real quick. He's been waking everybody up in the morning, especially on weekends, and so I just changed his feeding schedule, and so. For good or for ill, Frank doesn't tend to show up around the end of he does sometimes, but not like clockwork like he used to do his feeding schedule. I'll make sure, I'll bring him, next time, if he's around, I'll make sure to grab him and show off his furriness. Let's send our well wishes out. Starting with ourselves and understanding acceptance as we give compassion to ourselves and others today. May I be happy and peaceful. May everyone watching, listening, wherever you are, I wish you all happiness and peace. And may all human beings in the world, near or far, those at peace, those at war, those who are hungry, those who have enough, those who are in prison, those who are free. I wish all of us happiness and peace. Thanks again, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.